So I was 10 years old when I went to see The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift at cinemas for the first time for my friend's birthday party, and I walked out of that cinema thinking I had seen the absolute greatest film in the entire world. At that age, no matter how many times I rewatched that movie, I just loved it. That was more than half my life ago, so what's changed?
Ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today we are delving into a very big part of my childhood and one entry into a film series which currently has 9 movies with more to come. As an action junkie, I grew up watching the Fast and Furious films, but Tokyo Drift was actually the first one I had ever seen, and throughout the years, having discussed this film with fans of the series, we've come to frequently realize that there's a very different kind of appreciation that goes on for Tokyo Drift. This film has been called outlandish for having a ridiculous title, for having almost nothing to do with the first 2 films of the series, and for casting a 26-year-old Lucas Black as an obviously not 16-year-old teenager, but it also does have an appreciation for its stylish action scenes, for depicting a different type of racing, and for staying true to the simple roots of the series. Now, the reason I'm revisiting this film is because my boy Josh and I decided to revisit all the Fast and Furious films in the lead up to the 9th film, which was due to come out this year until coronavirus pushed it back, and I wanted to see where this film ranked in comparison to the rest of the series, as well as where it stood objectively. So let's drive. As a kid, I remember thinking it was weird that I was seeing a movie with the number 3 in the title and being worried that I wouldn't know who the characters were. As it just so happens, Tokyo Drift could not have less to do with the original movies. We start at an American high school of all places, so the series has decided to merge with the genre of teen movies now. I remember thinking as a 10-year-old that it was strange that you'd stick metal detectors on school students, but that's a cultural thing. We don't need it in Australia because we go to schools to learn, not to shoot them up. The song that plays during the film's intro is very nostalgic, so the mood is set immediately.
Nice ride.
Does the job.
What job? Delivering pizzas?
Huh, so you're a cunt.
Hey, you talking to my girl?
Oh, I forgot, we're not supposed to allow him to do that in modern America.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
A fight almost starts.
Why don't you nice boys let your cars do the talking?
So she started the conflict and then actively encouraged these guys to put their lives at risk for it.
Winner gets me.
And she's just a prize. The 2 start racing with her in one of the cars for some inane reason. I've seen this intro race so many times, and it's just spectacular, honestly. The live action stunts, the awesome shots, the editing which is yet to be negatively influenced by the Jason Bourne films. If you're a fan of car races, this should do the job. And if you're not, then I'm not sure why you'd be 3 films deep into this series. Sean takes a little detour to catch up, which encourages this girl to get emotionally manipulative again.
I thought you loved me.
If he doesn't love you, then that's probably because he has some respect for himself.
Guess I got a new date for prom.
Oh, god damn it, you are just a terrible person. So because of this stupid bitch and her emotional blackmail, her boyfriend decides to crush everything and ruin life for everybody. Sean ends up in the police station.
Can I get a copy of that?
His mum comes in.
Officer, is it illegal to smoke in here?
Me and my 10-year-old lackeys thought that was honestly the funniest thing ever.
So where are we moving this time?
We are not moving anywhere.
Sean goes to live with his dad, who the filmmakers really want us to understand is in the Navy.
You go to school, you come back here right after, and I don't want to see or hear about you anywhere near a car.
Sean goes to school to learn from a woman who clearly doesn't speak a fraction of English. He doesn't speak Japanese, so just how is he supposed to learn a thing? Like, over the course of the film, he slowly picks up more and more Japanese, but it never explains this.
Japanese food is like the army. Don't ask, don't tell. Name's Twinkie.
What it is, soul brother?
The one black character in an Asian-centric movie is named Twinkie, played by teenage rap star Bow Wow. He's not Asian on the outside and white on the inside, he is black. But at the same time, we do sell chocolate Twinkies at my work, so I'll give this line a pass.
Hey, I noticed you ain't have a laptop. I'll hook you up.
When did you notice that he didn't have a laptop? Have you been spying on him? Twinkie takes him to see his car.
My life be like,
Oh, great song. This really takes me back to my childhood. For some reason, I've never understood he drives a Hulkmobile. I imagine it's because Universal Pictures distributed both this film and the 2003 Hulk movie, but it's just an illogical vehicle. With a Hulk fist popping out the side, how the fuck is he gonna park in shopping center parking lots? He's gonna be scratching cars on the sides of him every single time he tries to park. Oh shit, here we go. This theme song is nothing short of iconic, and it's honestly the first great song to appear in the Fast and Furious series, and there have been many since.
Boys, all they care about is who's got the biggest engine.
I'm a guy.
It's in my DNA.
It's not my DNA, Sean. I don't know jack about cars. Please, tell me what my gender is.
Neela, right?
You're a quick learner.
If that was true, he wouldn't have moved here in the first place, darling.
Hi. He was just leaving.
Apparently, despite moving to Japan, Sean just can't keep himself away from fast cars, white women, and men who don't believe women are people.
Look, sorry, DK-san. Monkey didn't have his banana today.
This guy gets called Twinkie, and he calls white people monkeys. Either Bauer's character has no grasp on the concept of racism, or he is so progressive about it that he's actually realigning all the targets of each word so that they become meaningless.
Take mine.
Once again, Sean gets into a race with one of the locals over a white woman, but there's a reason they call him DK.
You know what DK stands for?
Donkey Kong.
Drift King.
Here we go, the filmmakers incorporated an entirely different style of racing into this movie.
Han rebuilt this bad boy from ground up.
And he gave it to the first white guy that rocked up. Does he just have no concept of value? They start racing and Sean gets the lead before he realizes that there's a point in the race where he's going to have to turn, and with DK's advantage as the Drift King, he breezes on by. We get a lot of beautiful shots of cars drifting through the lot, including some which make decent use of CGI. Unfortunately, Sean's skills aren't up to par for the drift world and he fails to keep up. DK glides beautifully through the lot, but Sean doesn't. That moment gave me so much anxiety as an adult. Watching him hit all those cars made me think of just how much money he was going to fork out for the insurance costs. I never even contemplated that as a kid. I really am old. DK triumphs, and Sean gets himself into debt with his new friend Han, who makes him a personal courier of unspecified items.
Hey Dad, it's me. I had to stay after school for some extracurricular activities.
Were you unable to actually name a single one? I mean, basketball, water polo, lacrosse, chess, soccer, like, these are things.
Let me guess. You're an army brat who moved around a lot. Mom and Daddy was never home. So you walked around pissed off all the time. And now you're fanning your family with these drift nuts.
What an assumptive asshole. This film really just wants to make every character unlikable.
Can't you go find a nice Japanese girl like the rest of the white guys around here?
Exactly! You do not go into a sushi restaurant and order a cheeseburger. That being said, I met my last girlfriend in Michigan and she was also from Australia, so I'm not one to talk.
50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
That sounds like the production pitch for Too Fast, Too Furious after Vin Diesel wouldn't return. Han takes Sean under his wing and loans him a car for him to learn to drift in, apparently having learned nothing. Between the next scene and Sean's next race, nothing relevant actually happens. There's just a lot of random filler moments like Bow getting into a fight with Morimoto, DK's right-hand man, but not for any reason essential to the plot. We also have this clip of Han doing donuts around girls to get their number. It's just as irrelevant, but it does at least have some cool car stuff in it, and the film tries to build some mythology around Han.
Well, you know those old westerns? The cowboys make a run for the border? This is my Mexico.
Mexico is meant to be a foreign land. This is literally your home territory. We get a montage of Sean learning to drift and helping Twinkie sell his goods, establishing a name for himself, and a shot of Sean's father coming home to find his son out again, which he's been told not to do. This scene never actually led to any conflict. That always bothered me, unless of course that conflict was in a deleted scene, in which case they shouldn't have kept this scene in the movie. We cut to Sean's race with Morimoto, but for some reason right to the end of it, instead of getting a full race where we see Sean beginning to triumph and accomplishing some things, we cut right to his victory for some reason. This is just bad storytelling. But the point is that he beat Morimoto, at which very moment Whitey suddenly becomes interested in him. The two of them go out for a product placement dinner and share their ideologies about how important racing is. But DK doesn't like that, so he goes and beats up Sean.
Stay away from her, or the only thing you'll be driving is a wheelchair.
You don't drive a wheelchair, dickhead. You know, for a master of cars, you're a fucking idiot. She doesn't take too kindly to this.
It's over.
All this over, gaijin.
I am a gaijin.
Oh, I see. This movie is actually about two star-crossed white people meeting in the foreign land of Japan. Yeah, I thought I was watching the third movie in the Fast and Furious series, not the Nicolas Cage film Fuck Asian People. DK goes to visit his uncle Kamata, played by Sonic Chiba of all people. This is the martial arts star of the Street Fighter movie series, as well as the crafter of the Bride's Sword in Kill Bill Volume 1. In this film, he portrays the actual head of the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia. This leads to DK and Morimoto chasing after Han and Sean when they finally take the drift racing to the streets, and it results in some pretty phenomenal action. One thing that I love about the races in the early Fast and Furious films is that all the cars are given such distinctive colors which help them stand out from each other, make them easy to identify, and also move across the screen almost like a painting. Eventually Morimoto crashes, but DK keeps up the chase, and eventually Han's car explodes with him still inside it, killing him. Allegedly. I do love Han, but I would much rather think that he died here than that he somehow came back to life in Fast and Furious 9, but I guess we'll see when that movie finally comes out.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
I count 2 guns, nigga.
Sean's dad threatens to send him home.
I'm putting you on a plane tonight.
Dad,
Sean, don't argue with me.
I did this. I can't run away. I can't.
Sean, I'm your father. I'm responsible for your well-being.
And I'm responsible for my mess.
If you look at the conflict between these guys, it honestly feels like both actors are trying to compete to have less charisma than the other person. I know acting isn't necessarily the highlight of this film, but still.
At least you're not redoing my mistakes.
Yeah, one mistake is actually worse than getting into a war with the Japanese mafia as a teenager. Twinkie gives Sean all the money that Han was stealing from the Yakuza, which he uses to get into their building.
Sir, I'm here to offer you a peaceful solution.
How do you plan to accomplish that?
A race.
I did not see that coming!
And the loser leaves town for good.
He decides to race with the engine of the car that Sean wrecked at the start of the film and the body of his dad's 1967 Ford Mustang. I don't know cars for shit, but this is one of the few models I actually recognize because this is what Steve McQueen drove in the 1967 action film Bullet. This is a beautiful vehicle.
DK picked this road for a reason. This is his mountain. He's the only one to ever make it to the bottom.
The stakes have never been higher.
And thus we get the final race, but there's no dialogue between the characters to build the stakes. It just starts with them revving their engines and then going into it. I remember as a kid and as an adult, I always found this final race to be anticlimactic. We see Sean go through a lot of adventures in this film, but we don't ever really get to see him convey the feeling of him becoming a master drifter, because though the film pays attention to him driving, it doesn't spend enough time on actually showing him racing, which should actually be the core of the film. So this feels like just another race in the end, and it ends up doing the same old song and dance. There are a couple of nice shots here and there, and the color scheme is okay, but the lighting doesn't do it any favors, and not even the best perspective of cinematography. These characters are meant to constantly be at the risk of flying off the edge of the hill, but there's not enough shots to establish just how close they are to flying off the road. So as a result, there's never any sense of danger. It's just another race. Although this time DK does crash, and Sean barely avoids getting crushed. Sean wins, but with this race, the audience really doesn't. Luckily enough, the film ends on a positive note, with the iconic song kicking back in, and Sean now being crowned the new DK.
This dude over here want to race the new DK. Heard he's been beating everybody around Asia, too.
Not tonight, Twinkie.
Said he knew Han.
Why didn't you open with that, dickhead? That sounds pretty important. Turns out that it's Toretto, meaning that there was actually a connection between this film and the preceding ones. And right when a new race is meant to begin, the credits roll. Is The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift a good movie?
Yeah.
Like with any Fast and Furious film, you really have to be an action junkie to appreciate this movie, or you have to be a 10-year-old boy. I want to say though, as I got older, I actually developed a new appreciation for this film. I always liked the manic energy in this film with its exotic setting and stylish action scenes, as well as the fact that its protagonist was a little more relatable this time because he's meant to be closer in age to the audience this film is marketed towards. But what I've come to really love about this movie is just how pretentious it is. The second last time I watched this movie, I actually stopped and realized what the plot of this movie was. It's an American teenager getting into a war with the Japanese mafia because of street racing. That has got to be one of the most ridiculous plots of any mainstream blockbuster I've ever seen. All the films in the series have ridiculous plots, but this one really needs you to suspend disbelief if you're going to enjoy it. The other films in the series at least try to develop their characters over time, and as the series got more bombastic, they faced bigger and bigger challenges. With this one, it just really flips you upside the head in terms of actually believing what's going on. And if you actually think about it, the moral of the story in this film is that white women are the cause of everything bad, because it's a white woman who makes Sean crash his car and have to move to Tokyo, and it's a white woman who makes him go head-to-head with a Yakuza. White women of the world, thank you. And why couldn't they make the love interest of this movie Japanese? This is a very successful mainstream series. You could have taken this chance to actually boost the profile of a Japanese person in Hollywood. But no, you gave it to some random white girl that no one's heard of since this movie. Maybe it was because Devon Aoki didn't do a particularly good job in Too Fast, Too Furious, but still, Justin Lin made the third film in the Fast and Furious series essentially as a spin-off because he couldn't secure any of the original cast to actually come back and play a prominent role in the series. The first Fast and Furious film had Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. The second one had just Paul Walker. The third one had the least convincing teenager you have ever seen in a movie. It also integrated a character from Justin Lin's previous film, Better Luck Tomorrow. I'm not kidding, that's actually where Han originally came from. What I really like about Justin Lin's directorial work on this film is he knows how to give his audience a good time. Yes, it's over the top and melodramatic, but so is Shakespeare. Yes, I said it. When it comes to its celebration of beautiful cars, attractive actors, and racing, that's where it makes its mark. Tokyo Drift is a purely hedonistic viewing pleasure, which it seems very aware of in its ridiculousness, but tries anyway. And even though the entire film is emotionally numb, it's still got an exciting brand of action, which is what everyone is here for. According to Rob Cohen, the director of the first Fast and Furious films, if you were to just watch Tokyo Drift, you'd say, I never want to see anything related to Fast and Furious again.
Wrong.
I could not disagree with that more. Tokyo Drift showed us that there was a lot more to explore in the world of racing, and it did it with the same level of production value and genuine fun as the previous movies. Sure, it doesn't feel anything like the rest of the Fast and Furious film series, but 5 onwards doesn't feel like the first 4, and Hobbs and Shaw doesn't feel like any of them. You know, this series has really taken on its own sense of life by this point. To finish up this video, I want to say where I think Tokyo Drift stands in comparison to the rest of the Fast and Furious film series. I don't think it's genuinely one of the absolute best, but that's typically because I actually enjoy the Fast 5 onwards film series, because I think the shift towards greater action and more bombastic stunts is more entertaining to me than just ridiculous plots about street racing. And I will not be including Hobbs and Shaw on that list. Sure, it is a solid action movie, but it feels so much more like a Mission Impossible film than it actually feels like any of the Fast and Furious movies. So of the current Fast and Furious films that have come out, I'm going to rank it 4th. I consider it to be more hilariously ridiculous than 1, 2, and 4, and I consider it a whole lot less pretentious than Fast and the Furious 8. But it's also not as objectively good as 5, 6, and 7. And as a standalone film, I want to give the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift 6 ridiculous sequel titles out of 10. It takes the series' ridiculous nature to all new absurd heights while still maintaining a simple story, all while having drama that is about as one note as all the performances. But the sheer energy of the ridiculous hedonism in the film, as well as the hilariousness of the melodrama and the exciting action scenes, combine for a film which is both very nostalgic and exciting to watch for action junkies. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes, please hit that subscribe button. I actually checked recently. I don't actually think it's up there. I don't know where it is, but that's on you guys if you want to see more episodes. Anyway, until next time, I've been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace.